If you need immediate help, please call the National Substance Abuse and Mental Health Hotline at 1-800-662-HELP.
Bottle of wine, fruit of the vine. When you gonna let me get sober? Let me go home and start over.
Welcome to Clean and Sober Radio, brought to you in part by Jefferson University Hospitals and Thomas Jefferson University, providing excellent clinical and compassionate care in the Philadelphia region, a proven leader in healthcare and education since 1825. And now, here are your hosts, Gary Hendler and Mark Sigmund.
Hello. Hey, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and welcome to the show. Clean and Sober Radio features real people with real stories about addiction to drugs and alcohol. Mark Sigmund, what do we have this week in recovery news?
So the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration has moved to reclassify marijuana from a Schedule I drug to a Schedule III. For people that aren't familiar, marijuana currently is a Schedule I drug with the likes of LSD and ecstasy. Moving it to a Schedule III does a couple things. First of all, it allows people that are selling marijuana in dispensaries and stuff to get tax write-offs. Another thing that it does is it allows them to actually investigate marijuana for medical reasons, and that's what a Schedule III basically is. It basically says there's some medical uses of marijuana. So it was very interesting news coming out. It still needs to be reviewed for public comment, go before a judge, and the White House accounting office or something has to also sign off on this.
Yeah, that's right. It has not been put into effect yet. The Controlled Substance Act, which was actually started in the early 70s, was the organization that started scheduling these drugs. And as you said, and we'll go through these later on in the show, Schedule I drugs have no current medical use with a high potential of addiction. And some of those drugs are heroin, LSD, marijuana, ecstasy, and Quaalude.
I saw that.
And it's taking it to Schedule III would be in a category like Suboxone, ketamine, anabolic steroids, and a host of other stuff. So I guess that's moving in the right way. I don't know, Mark.
One thing I really do like about this is that they actually can now study it, because you hear about this kind of it treats everything, right? And there really aren't the studies out there because it was a Schedule I, and now they can actually investigate and really fine tune it for certain medical purposes. So that's what I like about it.
Or is it a case of money is behind this, and they need to reschedule it to make it more available?
Well, that's the other thing, is that doing this is going to open up. I mean, you see dispensaries cropping up all over the place. This is going to make it more of these dispensaries because they can get federal tax write-offs. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Okay, what else you got?
So an audit has taken place of Pennsylvania and how they have used their opioid settlement money. And if people aren't familiar, the opioid companies have settled with the government and given millions of dollars, which is supposed to go to treatment. The audit has actually looked at 60 counties, records across Pennsylvania. And unfortunately, a couple counties would not release where they were spending this money. Interestingly, they place outside of Philadelphia called Kensington, which people are familiar with, and is a drug haven, basically. It's come out that really what they're spending it on is home repair, rent relief, eviction prevention, and other things. Another county outside of Philadelphia, listen to this, it's spent $1,800 on a project called Sticker Shock. And it's giving out stickers warning people to not provide alcohol to those under 21. And they justify it by saying alcohol leads to opioid use. There was a county that said that due to a clerical error, they don't have the data of where this is being sent. Here we go again.
When there's money involved, there's going to be a lot of corruption, and the money's going to go to different places. Hopefully, a good amount will go to the people that actually had been affected and still are from the opioid crisis. All right, that's good stuff. All right, when we come back, we have a woman in this studio who went to 12 rehabs, and you're not going to believe what her position is these days. And we'll be right back.
This is Clean and Sober Radio.
A cancer diagnosis can knock the wind out of you. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health can help. Our brand new Asplund Cancer Pavilion brings you 86,000 square feet of cancer-fighting science for truly comprehensive care. Backed by the strength of an NCI-designated cancer center. Call 1-800-JEFF now. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health. The power to out-science cancer.
Hey, man, this is Ricky Byrd, former member of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, an inductee to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as of 2015, and I listen to Clean and Sober Radio, and so do my friends here, right?
888-728-9941. This is Clean and Sober Radio.
Clean and Sober Radio is heard on these great radio stations. WWDB in Philadelphia, 97.5 FM High Def 2 in Philadelphia, WGAC in Augusta, Georgia, and WNBR in Tampa, Florida.
Spreading around the country, Gary. And, you know, if you're watching the show on Facebook, can you please hit the share button? And we'll keep spreading the show.
And let's tell people how they can watch us. So many people are listening to us on all different types of devices. If you go to Facebook and you go to our page, Clean and Sober Radio, you can actually watch us do this show.
Yes, you can. And you can also download the podcast at www.cleanandsoberbroadcasting.com. Whew. We got that out of the way, right?
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. All right, so our guest today her name is Sheri Belkoff. And Sheri is an example, everybody who's watching and listening, that we do and we can get better and we can recover and do great things. Sheri has been in 12 rehabs, 12. But she's been sober now for 16 years, and she sits on the board of directors of the Caron Foundation, and that is a big deal. Sheri, welcome to Clean and Sober Radio.
Thank you, Gary.
Hey,
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
So, wait, 12 rehabs?
12 rehabs. I have frequent flyer miles to rehabs and institutions.
What year was the first time you went into a rehab?
You know, it's hard to say. I think somewhere around 1983.
Really?
Yeah.
41 years ago.
Yep. That's right.
And like, what happened? I mean, 12 rehab.
Well, it might have been 87. It might have been. I don't remember.
That's actually not a big difference.
No, it's really not.
But
it's
so
really not.
Your story is really interesting. What made you go the first time?
So what happened was, it's a long story, but I'm going to try and shorten it. When I was 27 years old, I lost my dad suddenly, and I never got to say goodbye. And it broke my heart. It really did. I was very close to my father. And instead of, excuse me, I ended up picking up the bottle, and drowned my sorrows in vodka and more vodka.
Did you use before your dad passed?
Well, I went to a college that didn't have any drugs or alcohol. Have you heard of the University of Miami?
Okay,
in Florida.
Enough said.
So a little bit, yeah. I went down to Florida, and I was a featured twirler, majorette, on there on the 50-yard line at the Orange Bowl because I was a champion baton twirler. And it was there that opened my eyes, coming from a very sheltered life that I was in. I grew up with a helicopter mother, so it was quite interesting that, excuse me, once I got down there, it was like a kid in a candy store. There were Quaaludes, there was cocaine, there was grain alcohol. And, for me, I thought you put 25 cents in a machine and a red can of Coca-Cola comes out. I learned real quick.
You were that naive.
I was that naive, yeah. And being there, they had everything possible. But my dad was very smart because in my last year of college, he knew something was wrong. And he flew down basically and put me, on a plane home. But that was after I already had taken part in a movie. I was a baton twirler in the movie Porky's. So,
Really?
Oh, yeah. You
Oh,
can't,
really?
can't make this stuff up. They scouted the campuses, and I twirled fire, and, there was the movie, and my father, God rest his soul, he was thinking Porky's, porno, oh, my God, why
Oh,
poor
no.
daughter, but no, it wasn't like that. And I ended up going home, finishing at Rutgers, but, the drugs were already part of my story. Drugs and alcohol were a huge part of my story. And, once I ended up getting married, I'm trying to, I could talk for 3 hours about my story.
Mm-hmm.
But once I ended up getting married and finding, my husband, I had injured my back. So here we go with the opioids because, I had back surgery. And what happened was, the doctors didn't want me to be in pain. And so they prescribed more and more and more opioids all the time because you shouldn't be in pain. And when you have an addicted brain and when you have a brain disease, those opioids tell you, I want more, I want more. And that's exactly what happened, and that's really probably when my first rehab started.
That process of getting addicted quickly is really frightening.
Very frightening.
And most of us would think it can't happen to me, but it can happen to you.
Could happen to anyone. And I never thought that coming from, a sheltered environment, living at home, that this would happen to me. And it did, and I just ran with it. I really did.
Do you have any siblings?
I have one brother. Mm-hmm.
Did he have a problem?
Not that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I know of. We're not very close. Not because of me, because of him.
Okay.
So
how about any other family members? Any addictive behavior?
No one. We tried. Right. Although I believe that, it comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I believe that maybe there's some kind of mental illness on my mom's side, like her mom, maybe.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just doesn't come out of the blue.
A lot of times when we ask somebody that, they go, no. And then they go, well, wait a minute.
Yes.
My great uncle.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
That's it's like that. And, and to go back and think about, like someone said, how many, what year did you, I don't remember. How many pills did you take a day? Who knows? I just popped them. That's how many drinks? Well, I didn't pour, alcohol with a measuring cup. Most of the time I just chugged it from the bottle.
So what was it, alcohol?
Southern Comfort.
Did you like pills?
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Any of them start with a Q?
Absolutely. Down in Miami,
yeah, that's right.
We all went to the Quaalude
Mark,
doctor.
I'm going to tell you something. At Miami,
714.
In Coral Gables, Florida.
Yeah.
It was probably like Kensington is the capital for outdoor addiction. Quaalude capital. Miami.
1977. The Quaalude capital of the world.
Look. Sherry's smiling.
You guys are.
Oh my
these
God.
guys are both smiling, just
because
so people know if they're not watching. Yes.
Because even though it was so many years ago, I remember it vividly, And here I was, the featured twirler for the University of Miami, who had to compartmentalize everything. I had to study, I had to twirl, and of course there was the time to party and do drugs, alcohol, I never knew what grain alcohol was.
Yeah, doesn't it make you go blind or something?
My God.
That was the.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're just joining us now, we're talking to Sheri Belkoff. Sheri was is an incredible success story, with 12 rehabs under her belt, and now 16 years in full-time recovery.
That's right.
Full-time recovery.
That's
as
right.
opposed to some other people in the world. And she's a success story. We're just talking about where she came from, and where is she now. And it's just don't give up, anybody, because you can make it. As long as you're alive, there's hope for everybody. Again, if you're just joining us and you want to get involved with the conversation, the number here is 1-888-728-9941. That's 1-888-728-9941. So you go through one rehab, Sheri, and then what was there the time frame between each rehab? It couldn't have been that long, because 13 of how many?
12.
12. Oh, 12. I'm sorry.
12.
12. That's not bad.
Including the psychiatric hospitalization.
Okay, that's not
you know.
bad. So if there was 2 years between each of them, that would have been a 26-year run. Did you do a couple in the same year? Or what?
I have I don't remember a thing.
Do you remember the last one?
I do.
What was it?
I will tell you why. The last one was Caron Treatment Centers or Caron Foundation in good old Warnersville, Pennsylvania, right outside of Reading.
Yep.
And that's really, I have to say, what just changed my life. I was there in 2005, and Caron is the most incredible and the best, in my eyes, treatment center in the world. Today, they accept insurance, many different insurances. People used to think they don't, and they didn't years ago, but today they accept insurance. But when I got to Caron in 2005, I realized that, and I was told, it's okay, you're here. We're going to love you until you can love yourself. And I didn't have to be ashamed. I learned there that I had a disease, and it could be arrested, not cured. But remember, addiction is a disease, not a disgrace. And we all have to remember that. So they really took me under their arms there and under their wing and coddled me, and showed me all the tools and that I can do this one day at a time. And I followed direction, and I was scared to death. I really was. But each day began getting better and better and better. And I like now the way that I began, to feel. I mean, I was in detox for, I think, a week.
That's long, Mark, right?
That's a long time, honey. And then when I went there and I was in detox, the doctor, who evaluated me, he sent me back out to the waiting room, and he came back out. I'll never forget this. He was remarkable, Dr. Thompson. I don't think he's alive today. But he said, come back in. Now tell me what you're really taking. And I was like, he knew that I didn't say something that I wasn't taking. Yeah. And it was just fascinating. They were so brilliant there. And after that, of course, they didn't want me, to go home. I went down to their sister program in Florida called Renaissance for another 2 months. And it was pretty amazing because I'd already been away from my children. And that was in 2005. But you see, the numbers don't add up.
That's right, they don't.
Okay. Because after Renaissance and after I came back, and I want to let people know this, you must be mindful and careful when you are in recovery. 3 years after I was sober and 3 years after I went to Caron in 2005, I got shingles in my ear. It was very painful. I went to the doctor. I only forgot the ear, nose, and throat doctor, and there's only one thing I forgot to tell him, that I was in recovery, because there was still that shame attached to it, A lot of people are full of shame, something I've worked on tremendously.
Sherry, was it shame, or you didn't want to tell him that because he might give you you were looking for some kind of drug?
I don't know if I was looking for it wasn't a relapse set up, but I was in pain. I was really, really in pain. And he said, can you take Vicodin? I said, sure. So I really, till this day, could I have been setting myself up? Maybe. But I had attended AA meetings. I'd had a sponsor. In fact, I got so scared after that. I was on probably a bender for about a month. I got nervous. And, I ended up ordering drugs online from the Canadian pharmacies.
Right.
Chasing the FedEx lady around Lafayette Hill, Pennsylvania when I missed her in pajamas, like screaming at her. Who does that? Not someone normal, And I ended up making a phone call to Caron. I called back and I said, I need to come back. And I fooled my husband, I said, I went back there on the evening that I was supposed to speak to the women. So I was in detox, and the patients knew that their speaker was in detox. A very humbling experience.
I'll bet.
And that was April 21st of 2008.
Did your parents see you in recovery?
My mom did.
Your mom did?
My dad died 7 weeks after I was married. So it was really hard. He never saw me in recovery. Mm-hmm. He never saw a grandchild, But he was there for my wedding. And when I do go to the cemetery, I tell him, I show him my coin. And if people walk by, they would think I'm insane speaking to people in in their graves. But whatever. And so at that point, I left Caron April 21st. No, May, beginning of May, I think it was middle of May, 2008, and I have been sober ever since. I got immediately into service work.
What made the difference the second time that it really stuck?
I had a taste of what recovery was all about, and I loved it. I loved that I felt good. I loved that I could hear birds chirping in the morning. I love that I can speak without without slurring my words.
But you also had a taste of what it was like to go out.
I did, but I got fearful. I didn't want to die, and I knew that if I would continue, I was going to die, and I did not want to. I loved my family so much, and I loved myself, and I wanted to be proud of myself because I knew deep down inside, if I did it once, I could do it again.
Yeah, that's interesting, Mark. I mean, you get patients coming in that say, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. I personally think when I was using it, I didn't think I'd die, so it didn't really matter to me. I mean, what did you find with your patients?
I get quite a few patients that actually have kind of premonitions. It's a strange thing where they actually really feel it down deep, and I don't know if it's their survival instinct, but they have a premonition that if they keep doing this, that is exactly where they're going to end up. And I've had multiple people tell me that. Did you feel that like internally, like? There's no question. This is where I'm going if I don't stop.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I didn't want to kill myself. I'm one that's fearful of dying by suicide. So I did not want to kill myself, and I'm one that, believe it or not, I fear death. And I know there's a lot of people that do. I want to live now. I want to live forever. I mean, the years I missed, I want to live a long life now. And be there for my family and myself. And I help so many people, and I'm the National Alumni Leadership Council chairperson at Caron. So I have a meaningful life today. I love taking newcomers under my wing and showing them the way that I learned.
What an example you are. Again, if you're watching, if you're listening, you want to watch, go to Facebook now. Go to our page, Clean and Sober Radio. Just like these folks. Mike Brill is watching. Mike Brill says, Happy Friday, miracle workers. Let's save a life or a dozen.
Or a dozen.
Yeah. Judge Christopher Maddox. He must not be on the bench right now. You know that? Kathy Wolf Collin. Eric Jacqueline. Debbie Reynolds. Robert Brandes. Mike Brill says, Mark's microphone is not working through Facebook.
It was fixed. It was fixed.
All right, it's fixed. You okay now, Mike? It's fixed.
It's fixed.
Bill Cutruff is watching. Rich Moyer. Marcella Pilla Pederasi is watching. James Gowen. Rick Michaels. All right, we got a lot of people, and we'll get to them when we come back from the break. Again, Clean and Sober Radio with an incredible guest with an incredible story. We'll be right back.
This is Clean and Sober Radio.
When you look into the mirror, do you see your addiction to drugs or alcohol staring back at you? At Gaudenzia, in that mirror, we see you, healthy and at peace. At Gaudenzia, we see the tools you can use to recover the life you want to live. Hope is in the effective treatment we can offer, designed uniquely for you. Your hope is waiting at Gaudenzia. Call 833-976-4357. 833-976-4357. Through Gaudenzia, you can recover your life. Begin today.
Hey, this is Jackie Martling, and I listen to Clean and Sober Radio. This is still Jackie Martling, and you should listen to Clean and Sober Radio. Everybody should listen to Clean and Sober Radio.
888-728-9941. This is Clean and Sober Radio.
And thanks, we're back. I just want to mention that Marcella Pilla Pederasi's birthday is today. We're not asking how old you are. We're just, everybody here at Clean and Sober Radio wants to wish you a happy, Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And, I have to jump in here because tomorrow is a very special day. And that is for my co-host who has amazing recovery, as everybody knows, and helps so many people and is such a great person. Gary Hendler is celebrating 42 years sober tomorrow. And I have a coin, a very cool coin, with the Serenity Prayer on the back, and it says, "To thine own self be true." And so I wanted to present you with your coin, Gary. You are the man. Congratulations,
Mark. Thank you very, very much. And it's been a great journey, and people like you who've been a big part of my life. Brad here, it sounds like it's a funeral. No. Really, thanks a lot. And we do good work. And, I think all of us know when we couldn't get a day clean and sober, and then to think most of us have decades and decades, it is amazing,
42 years. Would you ever have dreamt that back then? 42 years sober. And this is the really crazy part. And running a radio show, Clean and Sober Radio, we never would have thought any of us would be on here.
No, we didn't. Right?
No way.
It's crazy.
It's a crazy journey.
Yeah, but so 42 years. I wonder where everybody has gone that I met at meetings. Tens of thousands of people. Where is everybody? Life takes them different places.
Yes, maybe they moved out of the area. Maybe some are unfortunately not with us anymore. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But it is amazing how big your circle, and you talked about that earlier, about how big your circle gets.
Huge.
Of people that are supporting us along the way. So
yeah,
it's great stuff.
It's good. We're very lucky that we're here.
Yes, we are.
And thank you very much. Jackie P. from Point Pleasant, New Jersey asks us, how do insurance companies feel about paying for multiple stays in rehabs?
I don't think they're happy about it.
Right. Who paid? Sherry, did you pay?
Years ago, many of the places that I went to, you're talking years ago too, did not accept insurance, and insurances are really more so, I would say, within the last 7-8 years, where more people are getting on board. So a lot came out of pocket. But, the worst thing to hear was you're in treatment for 7 days. And, when they put it through an insurance, you can't stay because Magellan Health, gave you 7 days.
When I went in 1982, I was on welfare, and they paid for 3 months, and that was a good amount of time.
Right. Which is why, Caron Treatment Centers worked contracts with all of that where you must be there for 28 days.
That's fabulous. That is fabulous.
So a lot has happened in the industry, which I'm truly grateful for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine some of these insurance executives, when their kids have to go to rehab, they probably rethink the payout.
Sure.
Yep. Gerald G. from Tampa, Florida. Do credit reports or background checks show if you have been treated for mental illness or drug addiction? I can tell you that credit reports do not. Background checks probably do.
And life insurance. Unfortunately,
yes,
life insurance.
Yeah. Wow, it's crazy. I want to jump back to talk about this classification, if and when they do declassify marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a 3. So we talked about Schedule 1, which right now is heroin, LSD, marijuana, ecstasy, and Quaaludes. They don't even make Quaaludes anymore, so I don't even know why it's on this list. Yeah, exactly. If they did, we probably wouldn't be sitting here at the table. You know what I mean? Schedule 2 drugs, some medical accepted usage, but with high potential for abuse or addiction. Then we go to 3, where they want to move marijuana. Drugs with low to moderate potential for abuse and or addiction, but less dangerous than Scheduled 1 or 2. These drugs can be obtained through prescription, but generally are not available over the counter. And 3 would be drugs like, I think we said already, Suboxone, ketamine, antibiotic steroids, that kind of stuff.
I think they pretty much nailed it with this. I mean, just my own opinion. I always thought that Schedule 1 was way, way off base, having the one Schedule 1.
Yeah, I mean, especially with marijuana and Quaalude. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Schedule 4, drugs with viable medical use and low probability of use or misuse. And Schedule 4 drugs are Xanax, Soma, Klonopin, Valium, Ativan. Well, I guess I sort of disagree because all of those have high potential for addiction.
Absolutely.
Right, and they're Schedule 4.
So maybe marijuana should be Schedule 4 and move these up to Schedule 3.
Yeah.
Because we get a lot of nightmare scenarios, especially with the benzodiazepines.
And Schedule 5, which is considered the lightest.
Yeah.
Drugs with low potential for abuse, lower than Schedule 4, duh. And they are Robitussin. Did you ever drink Robitussin?
I sure did drink
I bet you
Robitussin.
did. And Ezogabin. I never heard of it. EZOGBA.
I don't know what that is. Is that something else with a cold medication
let me ask
or something?
You use Robitussin?
Yes.
You must have been desperate.
Yes, Robitussin cough medicine with codeine in it.
Yeah.
And I also drank some more than the normal amount of Robitussin before.
Really?
Yeah.
It was good for a cough, right?
It was great for a cough. I mean, it really did not do. You're saying desperation. I mean, this is some of the places that we hit in this where we're trying to get high from anything, Gary keeps bringing this up every week. He's like, you use this, and...
because, Mark, you're so innocent-like. You know what I mean? It's, okay.
Gotta bust my chops.
Gotta bust your chops.
Yeah.
You've done it to me, too.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, and I'll keep doing it, Gary.
That's absolutely fabulous. All right, let's get back to our guest.
And
right?
what a story.
What a story. So, I think we left it where your family was out of pocket for most of these.
A lot of
money.
A lot of it was,
right?
Yeah.
A lot of money.
A lot of it was out of pocket, but like my family says today, worth every penny.
Yeah, that's right.
So, now, of course, it's different. Now these treatment facilities take insurances, but you have to be careful and you have to be mindful of where you seek treatment because, as you know, I'm a repeat relapser, went to many different treatments, but got the best treatment at Caron, and I am forever grateful for that organization.
What's the name of the organization again?
Caron Treatment
you're
Centers.
Saying it enough on the show.
Woo! I have to. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Caron.
Great.
Honest to God.
Kidding.
Okay.
Let me say, so friends that you had growing up.
Yes.
I guess at a certain point, like many of us, they probably said, we've had enough of Sherri. Were you able to, and how were you able, and when were you able to bring some of these people back in your life?
So I had a lot of amends to make, and it's very interesting that you bring that up because I just got the chills.
Yeah.
My two best friends that I grew up with we were like the Three Stooges, Lenore and Sarah.
Just like the Three Stooges?
Yes.
You've been waiting for that moment.
So that was great, Gary.
Yeah.
Great. So anyway, I lost them in my addiction for 10 years. 10 years. They were my best friend, and they just, we would invite them down to our house. And when they got there was just one person missing, and that was me. I would just hop in my car and take off, leave my husband there with the 3 kids. And they really didn't know much about addiction, and they didn't know how to handle, me. They didn't know what to do. And they just stopped our friendship. So when I got out of treatment in 2008, Sarah, that was in May, and Sarah in December. My birthday was December 1st, and she was curious to see how I was. And she called to wish me a happy birthday. We met, and, I began my amends with her, and then Lenore joined in a couple of weeks later, and today we're inseparable again. Yeah, they were at my daughter's wedding last August, And it's interesting because when we do get together, there's certain things, do you remember this person, when this one was born? No, I don't, remember certain things because I wasn't there. Yeah. But we picked up where we left off, and they're my best friends today.
That's really nice, because it can go the other way. People who have not been in this environment or anybody in their families. You know, it's like, I can't trust you. You know, I had that with certain people. They just wouldn't forget it, what I did. And I never actually hurt people that I know of. But, you know, when you're not in this world, it's hard to think that somebody can be so nuts and then they're not nuts. Now, how does that happen?
And, you know, you mentioned the memory lapses. They're the worst. You know, they're one of the worst is when you look back and you just can't remember. You know, you can't remember pockets of your life. You had a lot of them too, huh?
I had a lot of them. And the interesting thing is someone said to me, did you ever black out? I said, no, I just don't remember things. Yeah, well, honey, that's blacking out, you know? Yeah. Okay. But these friends are back in my life today full force. And, you know, but the important thing here is also I have gained so many tremendous friends in recovery. You know, Marcella's watching right now, one of my dearest friends. And I have many in recovery that are really like sisters to me. Marcella, Marguerite, all these wonderful, you know, wonderful people I know that had I not been to treatment, I wouldn't know who the hell they were.
Yeah, where did you go to treatment, by the way?
Oh, stop.
Yeah, okay. No, it's so, you know, when you were saying, you know, you would have people come down your house and you would take off. It's hard to even imagine how our brains were wired then. The behavior was so off. Right, Mark?
Yeah, and you know, I was sitting here thinking about how much addiction isolates you. You know, even around people, how much it isolates you. And I was just thinking about the separate sides of the coins in recovery. Here it is, you know, your friends are back with you and everybody's back with you. But how isolated did we get? You know, and other people might not have been able to see that, but we talk about it in treatment all the time about like battling isolation and recovery because it just attacked us with isolation.
And, you know, if we're honest with ourselves or we can really think what you just set out, you know, I would think, no, it wasn't that isolation. Then when you start thinking about circumstances and instances,
secrets.
You're so correct. Yeah, and secrets, you're so correct.
Yeah, the secrets.
If you're just joining us now, we're talking with a lovely woman, Sheri Belkoff, who attended 12 rehabs and is now sits on the board, a very distinguished board of the Caron Foundation. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and she sits across us with 16 years sober. You know, did you ever at any point think like this is impossible? Like I am not going to get this. I mean, did you ever lose hope along the way?
You know, I did. Really in the beginning, but you know, as the time progressed, I felt more positive each day. You know, and I'm a true AA believer. My home group is in Flourtown, Pennsylvania. You know, and I love AA. But you know, give me the first time that I went to AA. I remember driving to Cherry Hill, an hour away, because I didn't want anyone to know who I was. I got there and I knew two people in the room. So I said, well, I guess we're all over, so I'll keep coming back.
That was your first meeting?
Yeah.
Mark, you like to talk about your first meeting?
I sat in the Plymouth meeting outside of Philadelphia, just so people know, Plymouth meeting parking lot, and I was so scared to go in, you know. And then I was thinking, I'm like, people must have recognized you were in Porky's the movie.
Yeah,
so they
I
recognized
was.
you. You know what I mean? Was John Belushi in that movie?
No.
No, okay.
No.
Porky's.
I'm thinking of the other.
That's pretty cool. It's not exactly Gone with the Wind, but it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. I can imagine that set. I mean, it had to be pretty crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
It was a crazy set. But
Absolutely. Wendy F. from Spokane, Washington asks us, Mark. Gary, you talk about drug of choice. Your drug of choice was Quaalude. Are they still around? Again, if they were, I wouldn't be here. I can tell you that. They were taken off the market in 1984.
Yeah, and I tell you what,
You missed it,
I'm
Mark.
lucky I missed them because every time any of you guys talk about Quaaludes, I see their eyes light up. Brad, you see this too, you know, and I'm like, this would have been trouble. This would have been big trouble, you know. So when we play the tape out, right?
in Miami, we had the Quaalude doctor.
There were plenty in Miami.
Oh,
I went
yes.
to every one of them.
Oh, yes. Yes. People would wait outside this doctor's office just to get a prescription for Quaaludes. Oh, boy.
Here we go. A couple more people that are watching, so I would just want to acknowledge Kathy Lennon just celebrated 45 years in April.
Congratulations, Kathy.
Way to go, Kathy. We still think she's John Lennon's sister, but we can't.
Somewhere in the line.
We can't verify that. C. Ruger is watching. Judge Maddox, congratulations. 42 years, Gary. You're a great inspiration and friend. Bob Moeller.
Mike says something very interesting.
that's-
Mike Brill says, Sherry, to rise above the history of failure and relapse is the greatest human triumph. You won.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you.
Bill Sands, Rich Rosenbaum, Michael Forbes, Sophie Hendler, familiar last name, Howie Benner.
Yeah, we got the crew on here.
We got the crew on here. So you sit on the board, a very distinguished board. Do you sometimes say to yourself, oh, and I've done this, like either what am I doing here, or do they really know who I am?
Imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome.
Do you ever? I think we all feel it's an insecurity. It's just it makes you smile though, because you think back where I come from and where I am now. It's pretty amazing.
It is really incredible, and I'm in my second year of the Board of Trustees, and I just got back from a big meeting with the regional advisory boards from all over the country, and I sat saying to myself, "Damn, how did I get here? This is wonderful," and I'm just so proud of myself. Because I'm truly, recovery works. We do recover.
Yeah, we do.
And it's truly, it's the best gift I've ever given myself. And it's the best gift I ever gave my family.
That's
too.
right. That's right.
Today I have children that love me,
Let's talk about your children a little bit before we go to the next
Yeah.
break. How old were they when you got clean?
So my daughter was she was the youngest. She was about 13. So
Wow.
13, 15, and 19.
So they saw you
Oh,
at
they
your
saw.
worst.
Oh, they saw. They saw their mom 302'd off the front lawn to Norristown State Hospital, along with all the neighbors who are the ones that come to me for advice today.
That's right.
Wow.
The ones that used to speak behind your back come to me for advice today, about their loved ones.
Yeah.
So that's really, and it's very rewarding. It really is, to help others. But my kids saw a lot. But my kids also had a lot of, therapy when I wasn't around. And I was always in and out, and in and out, and in and out of treatment,
Boy, that's real difficult stuff.
It is.
That's trauma.
It is.
That's trauma at its
For
worst,
both
right?
parties, right? For both
Oh,
parties,
yeah.
it's trauma.
Mark,
And
do you see patients?
Oh.
You don't get kids, though. I mean,
I don't get kids, but it's the hardest thing in the world because here you sober up, and I don't have to tell you, Sherry, you sober up and you're in treatment and, especially inpatient, you're away from your kids. And it's so devastating because you don't have something to cover that up. And was that your experience? What was your experience like with being inpatient and the kids being on the outside?
It was very hard. There were a lot of letters written. I remember that I was only allowed to speak to them a few times a week. And it was extremely, extremely hard, But I knew that it was for a reason. I knew it was to allow their mom and their mom and a wife to heal and get better. And that's what I did, It was very difficult. And today my children realize, and they know addiction is a disease,
Sure.
And my youngest one is a psychiatrist. Who would have ever thought?
Wow.
She's just finishing up her residency and going into her fellowship, child and adolescent psychiatry. And I think that probably my journey had a lot to do with that.
No question.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
Hey, if you need help, or a loved one needs help, please call the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Hotline at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-HELP. And Mark, you have another very important phone number.
Another very important number is 988, and that's the suicide hotline. If you're having thoughts, you're feeling suicidal, call that number, and you will get help. And I've talked to people that have called these numbers, and they will hook you up with some help.
Okay, that's great. Listen, we're going to go to another break. When we come back, we're going to continue with Sherry and her amazing journey. And it's just a message to everybody. We do recover, and we do great things. We'll be right back.
This is Clean and Sober Radio.
When you look into the mirror, is your addiction staring back at you? Too many times, that answer is yes. At Gaudenzia, we see you differently. We see you as a whole person, healthy and at peace, living beyond the stranglehold of drugs or alcohol. At Gaudenzia, we see a pathway with tools you can use to lead you to recovering the life you want to live, recovering the life you want to share with the family who loves you. At Gaudenzia, we see hope and believe with the effective treatment we can offer, designed uniquely for you, within reach of where you are standing, you'll look into the mirror and see the potential for the fulfilling life that is in you. This time, you'll find your hope at Gaudenzia. It's spelled Gaudenzia. Call 833-976-4357. Again, it's 833-976-4357. Begin to recover your life through treatment at Gaudenzia today. Begin today.
This is Elvin Bishop, and I listen to Clean and Sober Radio.
888-728-9941. This is Clean and Sober Radio.
And we are back. And our board operator, Tyler, who does a great job, just said for me to mention the phone number again, which was just mentioned, but I will do it. 1-888-728-9941. Give us a call. Tell us how many rehabs you've been in. I bet you can't beat Sherry's record.
Yes, and I did want to give a shout out, if it's okay, to a former board operator, and that is the man Brett Kronberger. He was the board operator for many years for Clean and Sober Radio, and he's watching right now. He's got a beautiful little family, and
good
doing
for him.
very well.
We wish them the absolute best. So, what's it like? I mean, can we talk about your husband for a minute?
Sure.
Okay. So Sherry's husband's a physician, and I got to tell you, he must be some great guy. I met him. He is a great guy. I don't know if I could put up with a spouse who for years and years was using, especially if I never had a problem like your husband. That takes a special person to stick with you. Did you ever think he was going to leave you?
You know, it never even entered my mind, because when you're caught up in addiction and when you're caught up in alcoholism, you're not thinking about your kids. You're not thinking about your husband. You're not thinking if he's going to leave or not. But he is a tremendous, tremendous human being. He is a wonderful husband, a wonderful father. My friends call him Saint Larry. It's really, they just call him St. Larry. And, he was raised where, it's true in sickness and in health when you take your vows. And he's one that understands that addiction is a disease. I am truly fortunate, but I truly adore and love him so much. And we'll be married 37 years in July.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Larry, that's good.
Absolutely. What kind of physician is he?
He is a urologic surgeon.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Or as people say, a pecker checker. Whatever.
All right, okay. Yeah, very good. Yeah.
There we go. Distraction.
Perfect.
Distraction.
I mean, because we know that addiction gets the whole family.
It does.
So you're very fortunate. It all gelled together because of you, making a wrong right. It was simplistic.
True. And if I can say something else, a lot of people that are in recovery, should they happen to need an operation or a surgery or anything like that, very important. And I want to speak about this because I want everyone to understand that you can have surgery in recovery as long as you're being watched and guided and
honest to yourself.
Absolutely. I've had a knee replacement, 2 hip replacements, and I had a psychiatrist monitoring and talking to the orthopedist of how to wean me in the hospital from medicines that I needed at that time to send me home with nothing, but regular Advil.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to be honest. You have to be honest to your pharmacists. My record says in recovery. So, you must be honest, because if you're not, you're only kidding yourself. And what you worked hard for, you will disappear in the blink of an eye.
Of course, and we hear these stories all the time, Mark.
Oh, and when your mind tells you not to tell them, just know that's slick. That's the addictive voice right there. That's like, don't tell this doctor what's going on. And many times with long-term sobriety, people go out because of this.
Yeah. And it can happen to you. It's not everybody else. I find it when I have surgeries. I tell the anesthesiologist, and it's sort of like, you know how cool I am? I have over 40 years clean. Some of them understand it, some of them don't understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, I never go home with like you with oxycodone or anything like that. No. I always go home and just switch to Tylenol.
Yeah.
Myself, but hey, some people have some real crazy pain issues.
Absolutely. So. Steve Sussman's watching from Florida. He's our go-to guy for questions, and he recently had a birthday. I'm pretty sure.
Happy birthday!
And to David also.
Yes.
Let me see. Laura Story is watching. So 1-888-728-9941. We're here. Marcus M. from Phoenix, Arizona. Why do you think that alcohol has been legal for almost 100 years, and we are all familiar with all the other drugs that mess everybody up, like alcohol, but alcohol remains legal, and the other drugs that are just as dangerous are illegal?
Good luck making it illegal if you just take a look at prohibition, right? It's almost like there's an off-ramp that people want access to that, right? I think it's pretty much impossible to make that illegal.
Listen, it's going the opposite way. I'm convinced that in 10 years, everything's going to be legal.
You may be right, and there may be a whole nother level of this thing with computers and receptors in your brain and pressing buttons. I mean, there might be a whole new level of addiction coming down the road. 10 to 20 years. Yeah, of like, where people get hooked up to like things that'll make them high just by pressing a button, I mean, did you ever think of that with like the, electrodes on your head and stuff like that? There was a crazy movie about this. That's where I get it's not my own original, but you could see it,
But will there be technology to counteract that kind of stuff?
I don't know. I just think it's going to be so addictive, some of the VR and everything like that. I'm sure somebody will be making money off of it. And I don't know that there's going to be technology to combat it right away until it gets real bad.
Yeah.
But who knows? It's a whole nother ball game, Gary.
Yeah, it's a whole nother ball game. I'm wondering if marijuana is taken to Schedule 3, how that will affect. Well, it'll affect the criminal justice system for sure. How that will affect people having access to marijuana.
So, I mean, I think that people are going to have more access. Now, I did read that there's going to be certain jobs that are still going to have the same requirements of not having pot in your system, but I think it's just going to be, it's so accessible all over the place right now. I can't imagine even getting more, but I think it'll be more accessible, don't you?
Well, yeah, but the thing that I'm looking forward to, the only thing is that the criminal justice system, hopefully, once it's taken down to Schedule 3, there will not be penalties. Ridiculous penalties like there still are, and still people are still rotting in prisons, for selling, basically.
Yeah, well, and a lot of probation, I've been hearing they can still smoke pot when they're on probation now. They're not busting people for it on probation.
No, they're not. They're absolutely not. A violation, they're not sending them, at least around here, back. So that's a good thing. Hey, Sherry, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having
me.
Will
you come back?
Absolutely.
Did you have a good time?
I sure did.
Did you learn anything?
I learned.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes. To stay sober.
Right. And I think our audience learned from you today that we do recover.
We sure do.
Yeah, we do.
One day at a time, we recover.
Right. Remember, if you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, help is available. Please call 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-HELP. For Clean and Sober Radio, I'm Gary Hendler.
I'm Mark Sigmund.
Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for all your continuing support. Bye.
Through the rain and shake the dust away. I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves. I hope we pass the auditioning.
Hey, thanks everybody for joining us. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.